Okay, welcome back. Well, you can kind of see from the title of the video, it feels like after this weekend, everything has changed in this Oscar race this year. All of a sudden, as I alluded to on Friday night, after the Critics' Choice Awards had been out and the winners decided, I said, well, if we see something drastic like a Sean Baker winning DGA, then that's going to flip the entire director race on its head. Lo and behold, here we are. So yeah, for those that didn't catch it, Saturday you had a PGA win and a DGA win both go to Anora. And all of a sudden, this whole thing has changed. We've seen I won't call it a 180-degree change, but we've seen a change that's about probably a good 90-degree angle, if that makes sense, if that's the equivalent. Because Anora has been one of those films that, since the nominations came out, it's not been one where I've been like, oh, it's the obvious frontrunner, of course. You know, I haven't don't get the bragging rights for that or anything. But it's felt like one it's still been in contention. It's one of those movies that feels like it can win. And I don't think there's been a point this year through the Oscar season where I felt like it couldn't win. But coming off of Oscar nominations morning, that one, arguably The Brutalist, those were the two films that felt like they had gotten everything they needed historically from an Oscar standpoint to win Best Picture. Typically, that's you get a film editing nomination. Now, there have been some examples in the past, even in the distant past, where you didn't need film editing, but there was a crucial stretch there from like 1981 onwards till like, trying to remember here, I think it was Birdman in 2014, so like it was over a 30-year stretch where that film editing nomination was crucial, and you didn't see any Best Picture winners that were not also up for film editing in 33 years. And even since then, we've seen like Green Book can land that film editing nomination, and so on and so forth. And it's still been an important one. We did see movies like Wicked get into that category. Conclave was in that category. But A Complete Unknown, which some people had as kind of an outsider pick, that one did not make it in for film editing. So it didn't. For me, it doesn't immediately disqualify that film, but I was like, hey, that's just one it's missing. Then we had, like, Wicked was missing, like, the director nomination and the writing nomination. That's something that Conclave, Complete Unknown, Brutalist, and Anora all had. And technically, other than the only other one that has a lot of those is The Substance, but of course that one's also missing in film editing. So that one, I was a little less sure on that one as well, just because it is kind of an outside topic that doesn't normally get a bunch of Oscar nominations and stuff. This is kind of a little bit of a outlier in that way. It's not like we saw like with Cronenberg's The Fly, for example, which is not obviously an exact comparison, but it's not like an exact science in that way where it's like, oh, that one didn't get a bunch of nominations, therefore The Substance, was going to get the same treatment. Of course not, But that being said, Anora has been one, though. It's like, yep, it's got all that. It has, an couple actually of acting nominations. It felt like that one and The Brutalist were the two where it's like, they didn't really underperform on the morning of Oscar nominations. You had a couple overperformers. I would argue Wicked did a little better than I expected. Complete Unknown still did better than I expected, and I had it a little higher than some did. Getting it into, I had it in for the three acting races. I had it in for screenwriting. I did not have it in for director, though, for example. But anyways, though now we get into the actual awards groups that are part of the industry that are voting on this stuff, and that's where films like Complete Unknown were really shining with some of their nominations, and now Anora has won both PGA and DGA, and with that, I mean, you look at the stats there historically for your Best Picture winner coming from one of those two winners. It's pretty significant. 2019 is an example, though, recently, where both the DGA and PGA winner, that was 1917, Sam Mendes won DGA and stuff, and the film won PGA. That's the last time that it did not line up with either your Best Picture or your Best Director winner as far as the DGA awards are concerned. PGA has gotten it wrong, otherwise a few other times. We've seen, like, The Big Short win. I'm trying to think, what was the other more... There was another more recent one. No, not so... I was going to say Social Network, but no, Social Network and King's Speech. That was that year. King's Speech took the Triple Crown, if you will, of the Guild Awards with PGA, DGA, SAG. which Anora actually could do. I would still say right now, when we're talking about SAG stuff, though, because we still got a few weeks before that show, I would still say something like Wicked is still ahead. It overperformed big time at those nominations, got virtually everything it could have, aside from maybe Michelle Yeoh for supporting actress, but it's like that has not really been a big thing. It's not, Jeff Goldblum, for example, for supporting actor was not really a thing through the award season, but getting like Jonathan Bailey and getting the stunts in was pretty significant there. Anora is still a little bit of a possible spoiler though for SAG Ensemble, so I'll we'll probably talk more about that when we get closer to SAG. But anyways, it's PGA has been an important one though in recent years. It's lined up more recently outside of 1917, and boy, it's just a question now of, okay, does this mean going forward that Anora can't lose Best Picture? That's the way I kind of want to word the question, because if we say, is it the frontrunner to win Best Picture? Absolutely. Yes, it is. It's really hard to argue against that. And, some people have argued, well, hold on now. Remember 1917, 2019, that was kind of a chaotic year, too, when it came to deciding who the winner was going to be, because, let me just fact check myself here a little bit. That was, I'm trying to remember, somewhere in the 70s for the Golden Globes. Let me just see here. Oh, I was close. 76th Golden Globes. Or, nope, 77th. Nope, another year. Because that year, I remember, now we had, some people were believers in Parasite at that point when the Golden Globes were going on that year. I personally, I'd seen the film, I'd really liked it, I thought it was going to get nominated. I didn't think it was really that big a spoiler to win yet at the time. At least I don't recall thinking that way. I was more in line with something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was going to win. Maybe The Irishman could bounce back if it starts winning a few things here and there. And then we got surprised that night. I remember 1917 was not a favorite that night to win the Globe, and here it did win the Globe for Motion Picture Drama. And we had Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I remember, won. It won for musical comedy. Then it won Critics' Choice. So I was like, I felt like at the time Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was going to win. And I remember I did not a long, but a pretty elaborate kind of build up to that, where I'm like, well, you got 1917, but it's missing. It ended up missing like the editing nomination. And for whatever reason that year, I remember just having a weird feeling that somehow that one was not going to win Best Picture. And I couldn't really figure out why. And it overperformed at BAFTA, got a ton of wins there, ended up winning BAFTA and stuff. And, it felt like it was like with that, and then it won PGA and DGA. And I was like, well, yeah, it's for sure going to win for Sam Mendes for director. But I just had this weird feeling. I was like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feels like more of a, more of a thing there. And the other big thing was 1917 got nothing at SAG. I got completely blanked at SAG. It couldn't, there weren't enough stuntmen eligible for the stunt ensemble, which was really about the only prize it could have got nominated there for, because the actors weren't really a big part of it. It didn't feel like a huge threat for ensemble, even though there were plenty of recognizable names in there. But the fact that it got nothing at SAG, I think, also kind of put me back a little bit, where I'm like, well, hang on, you almost need at least something from SAG. Like Green Book, for example, was not a SAG Ensemble nominee, but it still got plenty of nominations from SAG. The two male acting races it got nominated in, and won for Mahershala Ali. But 1917 just got no support there. Parasite then won SAG, and it was like this big moment, and I could kind of feel the momentum shifting, and then the way it performed at BAFTA, I'm like, okay, I kind of believe in it now. So I did end up correctly predicting Parasite that year. This year, when we look at it, to start out the race this year, there were some people that argued for Anora, some people that argued for Sing Sing, couple people that thought once Conclave, the previews and stuff started coming out for that, some liked Emilia Perez. There wasn't really a clear frontrunner for a while, and then we got closer into it, and then some award nominations started coming out and stuff. I personally, after the big performance too at Venice and the other screenings that the Brutalist had early, I was like, I could kind of sense that one might be one of your, maybe not consensus picks like across the board, but I was like, I can see this one getting enough key support from key places and kind of being one of those, even though it's a long movie and stuff, kind of being like a cool movie and stuff. that people find. If you had a Discovery movie this year, though, I think it probably was either I'm Still Here or The Substance, one of those two. And even then, I think I'm Still Here ended up kind of fitting that mold more, because that wasn't one that was constantly getting in everywhere it went, versus The Substance was actually really well received by most awards bodies. I think everybody but BAFTA, I think, gave it the top prize a nomination there, and SAG too, did not get it in for ensemble, but no. And so I had The Brutalist there for quite a while to win. I started to sense, though, there were a couple things, like it was missing a few editing, like the Editing Guild it missed out on, did not get the editing short list at BAFTA, or long list, whatever the hell. And it felt like, okay, that's one, and then it didn't do very well at SAG. It only got Adrian Brody. So it was like, okay, I started to see a few people that were kind of questioning it in the industry and stuff. Some people that were, your Ann Thompsons and your Pete Hammonds and your Clayton Davises, all those higher up on the food chain. And there was kind of a sense from some of them that it's like, ooh, maybe not everybody got to The Brutalist in time, and it might be one of those movies that everyone sees after nominations are out, which arguably films like La La Land, had that issue as well, where you build up the momentum so much and you build up the expectation so much that all of a sudden you just can't meet that expectation. And so I was kind of prepared. I kind of lowballed it a little bit for some spots for The Brutalist. I still thought it would do pretty well, but it still, got all three of the acting nominations, got director, picture, got editing and everything. Pretty much, again, got everything it could have to help support it in its picture run. And Anora was kind of just hanging out in the meantime, and then it got blanked by the Golden Globes, which was really interesting. It felt like it was arguably a frontrunner there for like film comedy musical, actress comedy musical, screenplay, and they just could not find a place to award the movie. And then like we recapped on Friday, here comes Critics' Choice with Anora. And it's like, some people liked it there. I thought it was going to be a close second, but it would finish behind The Brutalist. And lo and behold, here it comes. It only wins film and nothing else. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. I mean, and I was already, we were all thrown off already by like Wicked winning for Best Director and stuff like that. But yeah, and then PGA and DGA both go for Anora. Now the question though to answer this. Is it the front runner? Yes. Is it inevitable? Is it like, okay, it cannot lose? Is it in the spot that, say, something like Oppenheimer was last year, where it's like all the momentum is behind Oppenheimer? I'm going to leave myself just a little bit of wiggle room and say there is a chance. There is a chance, Lloyd Christmas, you're telling me there's a chance. That's right. That Anora still continues to do well through the awards season, but possibly does come up short on Oscar night. Now, have I switched it? Is Anora now my front runner? Is it now my one I've picked to win Best Picture? It is. Yes. I think the math is there. Again, it's not missing anything coming down the stretch here. It's I don't think it's necessarily going to have the most wins at BAFTA, but it's certainly going to get at least one or two wins, I think. And I think, too, that it's like at SAG, it's got a chance to take one award with Best Actress. I don't necessarily think it can win both Best Actress and Best Ensemble. I think Demi Moore is... I think she's still the frontrunner to win at SAG, but Mikey's the one... I would say you got to look out for her. I don't know if anyone else, like Cynthia Erivo, possibly as a spoiler, if Wicked wins Ensemble and they want to give it something else. I would argue in that way, it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to give it... if you want to give it something besides Ensemble... I don't know who else, like, unless, again, Ariana Grande's lurking there in supporting actress, but I don't know. I feel like with Zoe Saldana, I feel like she's kind of leading the hunt right now. You got, like, the Stunt Ensemble, which Wicked is nominated for. I don't think it's going to win that. That would be a little bit of a surprise, because you've got, like, Dune Part 2 in there. They could easily give it to Deadpool and Wolverine. The Fall Guy is a movie about stunts, so you would think that would be one that's definitely going to be close if it doesn't win the thing. But yeah, I think Anora, again, that's the spoiler to win at SAG, but I think, again, you've got Wicked that's ahead of it right now. So if it falls short there, okay, then maybe it loses Best Film to, like, The Brutalist at BAFTA, but it still picks up, like, Screenplay. It still picks up Maybe the editing category, for example. Maybe it, still sticks around a little bit, which is what Parasite did. Parasite stuck around one SAG, though. That's going to be a little bit of the inverse there. And then still performed well enough at BAFTA, not just nominations-wise, but wins-wise, winning for screenplay, winning for international feature and stuff, that it was still on the minds of BAFTA voters. And enough of them enjoyed it enough to where they put it like second, third, if not first, on a lot of their ballots. And I think Wicked is in a spot where it could potentially do it. Now, again, the math is not going to be really behind this, because Wicked, we don't think it's going to be a huge threat to win a bunch of categories at BAFTA outside of the tech categories. It's already lost PGA, wasn't nominated for DGA. John M. Chu, sure, he won at Critics' Choice, but he's not nominated anywhere else, so we can't have that repeat anywhere else. Is it potentially going to win some of these other Guild Awards? Yes. But SAG is kind of it. If it loses SAG, if Wicked loses SAG, then I think Anora kind of has it to itself. I would say then, if that's the case, if Wicked does lose for SAG Ensemble, it probably does go to Anora. Because I don't really sense that, I don't know. The only other thing would be, what about Conclave? What about Conclave? Because it's still gotten a couple wins here and there through the televised award show so far. It was a nominee at both PGA and DGA. The thing is, and I know a lot of people will look at, well, what about Edward Berger missing for director? That is true. That was a kind of weird, kind of a hard pill to swallow for myself, to say, like, okay, Conclave is still in the discussion, because that was kind of my first initial gut reaction to, like, what can win at PGA, but it ended up losing to Anora too, like the Brutalist did, like Wicked did, and so on and so forth. But I don't know. I think that one would have to really overperform with BAFTA. It would have to really come back and really surprise us with a SAG Ensemble win. I don't know. And it's like Isabella Rossellini couldn't get in at SAG, so I don't know. It's just, I'm not really sensing that one having a bunch of momentum here. Sure, it picked up the Acting Ensemble Prize and the Adapted Screenplay Prize from Critics' Choice, but again, we don't see any carryover with those votes. I don't know. Even though, yes, it'll probably get a couple awards here and there at BAFTA, arguably could, I think it'll win British Film. I think it'll win Adapted Screenplay. Ralph Fiennes is a real threat to win Best Actor there, but I would probably still pick Adrian Brody to win, with Ralph Fiennes coming in at a close second. I don't know. I just don't think there's going to be enough overperformance by Conclave at BAFTA to make me change my mind. And again, it would really have to get a SAG Ensemble win. That's the really the only other way. And because Conclave, and that SAG win, if it does happen, because that's also going to be so late, it'll be after the voting is closed. I'm not sure how much insight that's going to give, because both PGA and DGA do still have quite a bit of overlap with Academy voters. You do see quite a few members of the different guilds that also do have Oscar ballots, and they picked Anora over The Brutalist. They picked it over Conclave. They picked it over Wicked. They picked it over Emilia Perez and Complete Unknown and the rest of the bunch. I just think at this point, you really need to start seeing Anora like completely run out of steam otherwise to slow this down. Like, if it goes 0 for, 6 or 7 at BAFTA, that's trouble. If it, and I won't say this, without, it might sound like a lot of trouble here. If it goes 0 for 4 or 3, is it 3 or 4? 0 for 3, yeah. If it goes 0 for 3 at SAG, that's actually not the worst deal, because we know Yura Borisov is not a genuine threat to win for supporting actor. We know Mikey has genuine competition in Demi Moore for Best Actress, and we know the Ensemble Prize. We know Wicked is really, really a favorite there at SAG. So yeah, I wouldn't push the panic button at all if Anora goes 0 for 3 at SAG. The bigger threat, again, would be that it just goes goose egg at BAFTA, like it went a goose egg at the Golden Globes. And that was really the only spot where I was like, okay, that wasn't great for Anora. And then it got the SAG Ensemble nomination, plus 2 other nominations at SAG and stuff. So I was like, that was a good, I remember talking about it at the time, I was like, that's a good bounce back for the film and stuff. And then since then, it really hasn't looked back. So, yeah. So there's a lot of thoughts going on there. But let's turn our attention really quick, though, to the Best Director category. That Sean Baker win was huge. huge at DGA. That is again, that's a turn it, flip it on its head type of win by Sean Baker. And boy, winning both that and PGA same night within an hour and a half of each other, whenever they were handed out. That's a sign that, again, even though I don't want to, stress it too much, the Critics' Choice win also the day before, it was just a really, if you'll, take the pun intended, it was a brutal weekend for the Brutalist. Not only do you really underperform at Critics' Choice, not only do you lose DGA of all the races that you were frontlined in, you lose there, and then at going back to Critics' Choice, you also lose in a category to someone who's not even nominated against you anywhere else. Just for Brady Corbett in the director lineup, it's like, wow, that is really, really bad in retrospect. And then, PGA, which I had it winning PGA, but I was like, that one was more really up for debate. DGA, I did not think was up for debate. Brady Corbett, I think, had that thing almost down on lockdown. But nope, the voters still, they really preferred Anora. They really preferred Sean Baker's job. Now, I've already seen like a handful of people immediately jump to, oh, well, Brady's not going to win now because of the AI stuff. I've looked more into it. I've watched some videos. I've watched some and read a couple think pieces here and there on it. And a couple of the videos I watched actually cited the original articles where all this stuff comes from. And I think this, I'm not going to put it on the level of like what's happening with Amelia Perez, where that's just a complete smear tactic by people that found the Carlos Sofia Gascon tweets. It's not to that level of a smear, but certainly I think we've seen the AI usage in the film get blown out of fucking proportion in a bigger way than it's up on the trajectory of something like a Three Billboards, the way all the racist sentiment, so to speak, got completely blown out of proportion that year as well. And boy, I hope it isn't true. I'm not going to know. I don't think we're going to know for sure unless, again, some folks that write for these major sites and the few print jobs that are still out there, if they talk to actual Academy voters or actual voters that line up with the DGA or the PGA and be like, okay, guys, where did you think the Brutalist went wrong? I want to hear those opinions because I want to hear, okay, was it people that just bought the bait with the whole AI stuff, which I've kind of mentioned a little bit, but basically to go more into it, there is some controversy around AI usage with the narration and possibly some of the dialogue, on-screen dialogue by both the Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones characters having to do with fixing and tweaking some of the pronunciations and stuff with the Hungarian dialect. And it's also a little bit of controversy with some AI usage generating some images that were later used in the epilogue of the film, which is having to do with like a celebration of the Adrian Brody main character in the movie and stuff. Now, look, I'm somebody, I work in the financial industry. AI is scary as shit when it comes to getting smart enough to impersonate people where they want to take money out and stuff. Like my day job is, stopping stuff like that. Not working, day in, day out with AI stuff. I'm not going to say that, but it's just getting ahead of the curve on stuff like that, trying to figure those signs out and stuff. So yeah, I think AI can be scary as shit in that respect. I don't like that people use AI to deep fake stuff, whether it's personal stuff or we saw like poor, I shouldn't say poor. Well, her Chiefs just lost yesterday. But Taylor Swift, for example, when all that stuff happened, what was it, a year and a half ago with the fake nudes or whatever, it's like, guys, use AI for smart stuff. Use it to help train firefighters, paramedics, doctors, dentists, all these people that could use more tools in school to help, their profession and stuff. Use it for military stuff. Use it for all the stuff that's actually good, stuff that's actually going to help our society. Not fakes like this. It's and all that stuff. And obviously you don't want to go down the road of it's all going to end up like Terminator anyways, where we all get blown to bits because AI becomes self-aware and stuff like that. It's I think we're smart enough to not get to that point, but who knows? That could happen 5 minutes from now and we'd all not know a thing about it until it was all over. But without being too pessimistic about it, I'm not a fan of AI. I'll be on the record for that. It's just not a... when it's misused. I'll correct myself there. Because again, who knows? Maybe, 5-10 years from now, AI will be just an industry standard in a lot of different industries. Maybe not the film industry. We'll see. But yeah, and there has been a push. Obviously we know with the strikes last year for most of the back half of 2023. We did see a lot of stuff where actors had problems with it, writers had problems with it, and so on and so forth. And the people that legit, their jobs are in danger because of AI, yes, they should absolutely fight for those. And I'm going to be on board with them. Because AI, as much as it, can do what it does, it's never going to replace a true human brain. It's never going to replace the creativity and the thought that can go into that and stuff. So, anyhow, I can understand people that, misread that and that do that without, and the ones that do that and then just don't do further research and just, read the most blasted headline and just believe that Brady Corbett's entire film was AI generated or something. You need to smack those people upside the head, because no, it goes beyond that. You need to really, do a little bit more looking into it before you just blast it into oblivion. But anyways, I do want to, find out, okay, was that stuff that just really mounted? Is this a case, again, kind of like a La La Land situation or a Power of the Dog situation, where you see a movie that performs really well when it gets to nominations, and then people just can't find the love for it anymore? It's like a new shiny toy comes along that they just really, really like. Arguably, Roma was kind of in that same spot, where it's like Roma kind of felt like a big front runner and stuff, and then you had Green Book on the side, though, that was like a more appealing movie to the voters, as it turned out. I would guess that the latter is probably the better fit here, because again, this AI controversy stuff, it's not like Carlos Sofia Gascon's tweets, which were leading the film industry headlines for like almost 2 weeks or whatever. Still, once in a while, you hear about people reacting to it and stuff, or like her not showing up at certain events and everything. That's still making headlines. But the AI stuff with the Brutalist, it kind of ate up a few cycles here and there. And since then, it's really only been kind of a word of mouth thing. We don't see, 5-6 articles a day pop up on IMDb or somewhere like that, where it's people talking about it or anything. It's just hasn't been as front of mind as far as the press goes. Now, as far as word of mouth goes and all that, what's happening behind closed doors or, just in parties and stuff with a lot of these Oscar voters, I don't know. And that's where I want to, again, get that confirmation from the people that do know those people that are willing to talk about it and say, okay, what really bugged you about the movie, where it's, a film that kind of went from front runner to now it's like it's probably going to be an also ran. And I think at the end of this video here, I'll go through really quick, just some quick thoughts on like the categories, all 23 categories, and kind of say, okay, where are we leaning, at this point? Because we're less than a month away, and we've still got, a few of the other major awards to get handed out here and there between BAFTA and SAG, but and then on top of all the guilds that are yet to go. But boy, I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's the fact that the Brutalist is 3.5 hours long, and there's just people that they'll blind vote for it, and then once they see it, they just can't get through it, or they just have problems with it. They don't like certain subjects in the movie. I don't know. Again, it could be an amalgamation of different things, paired with the fact that it was kind of looked at negatively because of AI stuff. But anyways, the question now is, does Brady have any shot at winning the Oscars? And I would still say, look, he can probably still win at BAFTA. It's not a guarantee that Sean Baker and Anora has, again, we've talked about it a couple times, a little bit of that European sensibility about it, kind of feels a little bit like that. I always, describe it as kind of like a French film farce in its second and parts of its third act and everything. So I think some of that will appeal to the BAFTA voters. Will it appeal to enough of them to where Sean Baker can overtake Brady Corbett and win Best Director at BAFTA? I don't know. I think, again, I think Brady still has the BAFTA win for Best Director. Really after that, it's like, okay, unless the Brutalist like really, really overperforms at BAFTA, like if it takes, okay, let's say it takes Best Actor, Best Director, Best Film. Let's say it also takes Original Screenplay. Let's say it also wins for Guy Pearce and Felicity Jones. Like it just sweeps a lot of those top categories. Let's say it also wins for its production design, its score, its cinematography. Like it pretty much goes 9 for 9 at BAFTA. Then you're like, interesting. And again, how much of that overlap between British voters that are in BAFTA and also ones that have Academy ballots? how many of them are going to feel the same way? You know, with Felicity Jones, it's like, is it a, you know, kind of a having the roots, being from the greater UK area, helping her out, and so on and so forth. We're not sure. And I think you'd have to see something really, really drastic there for me to put The Brutalist back ahead of Anora. Now, is Sean Baker, you know, if he wins at BAFTA for Best Director, then yes, we know it's done. The other thing too, the major thing though, the major reason why I wanted to say Brady's probably got it down to like a 25% chance. I would say just because of the fact that Baker was, I won't say an incredible underdog, but he was certainly an underdog to win at DGA, and the fact that he came through, that just speaks volumes to me with how much in general that Anora is, you know, maybe it's not everyone's, you know, favorite film of the year, but it's certainly a movie, again, like we've mentioned with the PGA, with PGA with the preferential ballot voting, it's certainly not a movie that a lot of people downright hate. It's not a movie that is going to show up at number 8, number 9, number 10 on a lot of those preferential ballots when we get to the final voting there at the Oscars. And I don't know. You've also, you know, Sean Baker's also arguably a little bit of a bigger name at this point than Brady Corbett when you compare it to the previous works. Because Brady, I mean, can you name more than like one or two of his other films? With Sean Baker, it's like, oh yeah, you can go to The Florida Project, you go to Tangerine, that was the name of it, right? Or Red Rocket. You know, you can name his other most of his other movies off the top of your head. With Brady, you got to do some more of the research. But anyways, let's see. I was going to pull up my list here again for Best Director, because up until the last couple of years here, we saw a huge stretch through the 2010s where your Best Director winner was always, it was the technical marvel was the movie that was winning for Best Director. So you could argue Mikhail I can never pronounce his name, Hazanavicius, the guy that won for The Artist. You know who he is. You know, arguably, okay, going in, trying to do a silent movie, or mostly, you know, 90% silent movie or whatever, that's, you know, that's tough work. You give it to him. Life of Pi with Ang Lee. It's like, yep, there was a ton of technical stuff in that film. Gravity, trying to do all that stuff. Alfonso Cuarón, yes. Birdman with the one-take shot, you know, type of, you know, camera look and stuff, and doing all the long stretches of dialogue and everything. Yes, that's a big technical feat. And him again with The Revenant, getting everything with that movie and everything. Yes. Damien Chazelle with all the stuff happening with La La Land. Yes. Guillermo del Toro, Shape of Water. It's like, yep, there were definitely all the things. And doing that on the budget that he had for that movie and making it look even more expensive than it was. It made it look like a $100 million movie when it was, what, a $15 million movie? Something like that? Or $19 million movie. Yeah. And then you could argue maybe one more time with Alfonso Cuarón with Roma, but that was more of a, you know, personal drama film and stuff, which when you go back to like the 90s and some of the 80s winners for Best Director, it's like, yeah, you'd see like Barry Levinson win for Rain Man. It's like, okay, is that really a technical piece? No, it was just really a favorite from the Academy there. Or let's say James L. Brooks winning for Terms of Endearment. Not really a huge technical achievement, no. But, you know, it was a you know, personal drama movie that worked really well. Robert Redford for Ordinary People. Robert Benton for Kramer versus Kramer. Woody Allen for Annie Hall, and so on and so forth. It's like these aren't really huge technical achievements, but they're just really popular movies, and the director really did a great job with all that stuff. You can go to Sam Mendes for American Beauty. You could argue Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby as well. It's like, again, these aren't huge, like, technical achievements, but they're just really well-directed movies that the Academy really, really liked. And then we saw with Bong Joon-ho winning for Parasite, that was him with a, you know, smaller, more intimate movie, not so much a technical feat, winning over the easy technical big achievement, which was 1917, Sam Mendes, who had, you know, again, making it look like one continuous shot through World War I. And then you had with 2020, 2021, arguably 2022. Then you had Nomadland, Power of the Dog, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, all winning. And again, none of those three, I would say, the director winning, none of them were for big technical feats. Not really. It hasn't really been a case where, like Nomadland, there wasn't really a lot of huge technical stuff going on. Arguably that year, you could argue David Fincher had that. In 2021, you could say really three out of the, or really four out of the five were more intimate stories between Drive My Car, which was up for director, Belfast with Kenneth Branagh, Licorice Pizza with Paul Thomas Anderson, and Jane Campion with Power of the Dog. Sure, Power of the Dog is a period piece, as is, the two of the other three, but I don't know. Then yet, Spielberg with West Side Story, though, is probably the closest you have to a technical achievement. Again, it was his first time doing a musical and so on and so forth, and there was all the camera work and that and everything. You could argue, yeah, it was more of a technical thing. And then with 2022, that one, I would really argue none of them are huge technical achievements. And again, you had stuff like The Fabelmans. Spielberg was nominated again for director. Not really a huge thing. It was like a period piece, sure, and it was a self-reflective, kind of almost autobiographical film. Not really, again, a huge technical achievement. You couldn't say that about Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Couldn't say it really for Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin. Again, another period piece. But and then Todd Field for Tar, very intimate story. Everything Everywhere All at Once had some technical stuff to it. Yes, that is true. And it's probably, again, that or maybe Spielberg are like the two arguments you can maybe make for a huge technical, challenge when you're directing the movie. But who knows? And then last year with Oppenheimer, you had Christopher Nolan win. Oppenheimer, sure, again, was a period piece. You had the whole Manhattan Project and the Trinity sequence and everything. You also had Yorgos Lanthimos with Poor Things, was more of a technical, bigger spread than he usually does with some of his films. Other than maybe The Favorite, most of his are more contemporary pieces, and they're, again, smaller casts, not a lot of huge technical work to it. You could argue maybe the camera work and stuff, some of the shots he does and everything are a little more... Not every director is going to do them the same way or pull them off the same way as Yorgos does, but regardless. And then you look at this year, it's like easily The Brutalist, though, was the big technical marvel this year between the five nominees. And, Emilia Perez, arguably a little bit with some of the musical numbers and stuff, but Anora, again, this goes back to very much one of those intimate, very much like a Chloe Zhao, more of a intimate storytelling and everything. Not a huge directorial palette to work with. You don't have a lot of the wide shots with the beautiful exteriors and stuff. That's not what you think of with Anora or with Nomadland. And I think in this case, it is, again, if this race had happened 5-6 years ago, we would have said, oh yeah, 100% Brady Corbett is going to win this thing. And he probably would have won at DGA. But we've seen more of a return back to that, more inward, more less technically proficient style of directing and accomplishment of directors. That's been your winner here. You could argue 3 of the last, or even 4 of the last 5 years, if you don't count Oppenheimer. And even then, some people would say, well, even though, yes, there is a Trinity sequence, it is a period piece, and you've got, again, some of the bigger landscapes, arguably in some sequences in that film, you still do have a lot of scenes of people talking in small rooms or people talking in tents, people talking in classrooms and stuff in the movie. So it's like, it's not always, a big, like Dark Knight Rises level of filmmaking or something like Interstellar or Inception from some of Nolan's other work. But yeah. Because we've seen that shift, I think, back to more intimate, less huge spectacle directors winning, I think that definitely helps the argument that, yeah, Sean Baker, he's not completely undefeatable in Best Director. Brady could still come back. He would be a little bit of a minor shock at this point if he does come back to win Best Director, but it wouldn't be something that we would say, like, oh, we didn't see this coming. With Baker winning for DGA, that was one where I was like, I really genuinely did not think that was going to happen. I would not have bet the farm on that one, 100%. So, yeah. So, again, that's where I stand right now. So, for now, yes, I do have Sean Baker ahead to win for Best Director, on top of Anora also winning for Best Picture. Really quick through the rest of the categories. Adrian Brody is still my frontrunner to win for The Brutalist for Best Actor. I would, again, say caution a little bit here. I think he will win at BAFTA. I have him losing SAG to Timothée Chalamet, again, because his film is not up for ensemble. But I think even with that late run by Timothée, I don't think that's going to be enough for him to overcome Adrian Brody. I think Adrian Brody will still win the Oscar. For Best Actress, I think Demi Moore is still the frontrunner. I think Anora, even if it overperforms arguably from where we had it like even a week ago at the Oscars, I think if it's going to pick up any other categories aside from picture, director, and screenplay, it's probably the editing category. And again, I'll get to my thoughts here on that one shortly. But Mikey really needs some help. She really does need to turn this around. She needs to win both BAFTA and SAG, I think, before I start predicting her in this category. Otherwise, I think Demi Moore is definitely going to have a strong argument here. With the only other thing here, someone who could be just waiting in the wings, who could actually come up and surprise us here, is Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. And it's because her movie is in for Best Picture. And the only other thing, I would say, the only other thing that really could have happened that would have given her even more of a leg up here is if I'm Still Here had managed to get one of those adapted screenplay spots. Like if it had stolen one of the spots from, say, something like Nickel Boys or Sing Sing, then okay, then I would have said, ooh, there is actually a genuine amount of support from the movie here across multiple branches. Yeah, so I think for now, I think Fernanda's a close, in striking distance in third place, but I think Mikey and Demi are going to fight this out when we get to the rest of the way. Kieran Culkin, I think, still has supporting actor for A Real Pain. I don't think he's going to be able to make the stage for BAFTA or for SAG. Maybe for SAG, I think he'll be around for that. Maybe if his rehearsal schedule lines up, because I don't believe he'll be available next week at BAFTA. And he could still lose that category, too. I think Guy Pearce could still win for The Brutalist over there, especially, again, if the scenario I panned out earlier where it's like, okay, maybe that one does overperform at BAFTA. But that still being said, the only thing, again, that worries some people here is that his movie is not up for Best Picture. But you look at stuff like The Whale. That won for Best Actor without the movie really doing extremely well. That missed out for picture, missed out for adapted screenplay at the Oscars. It really did not do extremely well. So it's not like it's impossible if your movie doesn't make it for Best Picture, when it was kind of in a spot where you felt like it probably would have gotten a nomination, the same way The Whale felt like it was probably one that was going to make that list of 10 and didn't. A Real Pain is very equivalent in that. It does feel like one that probably should have made the list for 10, but it didn't quite make it. Supporting actress, Zoe Saldana, I think, is still our front runner here. Ariana Grande, I think with a SAG win, that you could argue that's maybe just an overlove of Wicked at SAG. I don't think that Ariana is a genuine threat to win at BAFTA. If she does win, again, both BAFTA and SAG, then it's like, uh-oh. Then we know Zoe is in some trouble here. But, yeah. I would still say, even though, again, yes, we could continue to see some hemorrhaging going on by supporters of Emilia Perez, but Zoe, again, I don't know, again, why would you punish her for not really doing anything extremely wrong in the movie? It's like, I don't know, I just don't agree with that. For original screenplay, yep, I think Anora is the front runner here, but The Substance really could make a run for it here. I think The Substance is creeping up here a little bit. Again, of the 5 screenplays, it does feel like the most original screenplay, which can be the key to winning this category. And yeah, I would say especially if it wins at, say, BAFTA, where it's not really favored to win. I would still say Anora is the front runner at BAFTA as well. We just kind of need to start seeing Anora win the screenplay prize, I think, to kind of finish the conversation there. But yeah, for whatever reason, if Substance really overperforms at BAFTA and wins for screenplay, then we know, oh, okay, that's kind of where they're leaning. And then I think Anora is in a little bit of trouble for at least its screenplay prize. For Best Adapted Screenplay, I think Conclave, this is arguably, of the top 8 categories, this is probably my most confident prediction right now of who's going to win, go all the way. I think it's Conclave for Adapted Screenplay. It's a very easy, obvious place to award the movie. You really don't have a strong number 2 candidate in the category, because you could see some real support coming out for a movie like Nickel Boys, for example, some passionate voters there. You'll have a couple passionate voters for Sing Sing. But I don't sense that there's a genuine love behind the screenplays for either Emilia Perez or Complete Unknown. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be enough there to take it away from Conclave. For your feature categories here, for an animated feature, I would still say Wild Robot is out front, but I'm still a little wary of Flow. Now, Flow didn't have a bunch of support from the Annie Awards, which were actually the same night as PGA and DGA. The Wild Robot really cleaned up at the Annie Awards, but that's not always your biggest indicator. I I would say Flo. If Flo wins at BAFTA, I'll probably go with Flo at the Oscars. But yeah, I think it's if enough international supporters really go for that movie and love it there, the same way Boy and the Heron, as I recall, won at BAFTA, and we were all like, "Oh, it's still going to be Spider-Man," and we were all a lot of us that still stuck by Spider-Man. We were all wrong, of course, but yeah. Otherwise, doc feature. I think No Other Land is still ahead. Porcelain Wars win at DGA was pretty big, and because it won over Sugarcane, as I recall. Sugarcane was kind of the favorite to win there at DGA. I think Porcelain War all of a sudden feels like, okay, that could be a genuine, second, third place movie. That kind of takes it out. Sugarcane will still have its supporters there, but I think No Other Land with the subject matter on that one, I would probably stick with that one winning. International feature, I'm on the I'm Still Here bandwagon here now. I think with this movie, the fact that it did get in for picture and it got in for actress, which again, you'd have to go against a massive stat if it was going to miss for best actress. Paired with the backlash we have seen from Emilia Perez, I think it has left Emilia Perez vulnerable in this category. I think if there's just more general love for a movie like I'm Still Here, even though, yes, there was a very, slight controversy that really got just completely dismantled and nobody really remembers it now with the Fernando Torres blackface thing from years ago on Brazilian television. Yeah, I think I'm Still Here really feels like a candidate that can win there. So I'm picking that one for now. I just don't know if there's enough goodwill that Emilia Perez can win back for it to come back and win that category, but we'll see. For best cinematography, I think this is another place where the Brutalist can strike. I'm not sure, even though Nosferatu won at the Critics' Choice, I really don't see an alternative to that at, like, say, the Cinematographers Guild. If they go really off the wall and pick something else, then, okay, maybe, we'll see. But I think the Brutalist, the one thing, again, everybody, even the fans that are not, super into the movie, I think a lot of them are still going to commend the cinematography from the movie. For best film editing, I'm going to go with Anora here to win. I think because of its win at PGA and DGA, again, historically, your film editing winner likes to line up with Best Picture. Not always, but it kind of feels like one of those like Argo, where it's like, yeah, it'll win Best Picture, it'll take another prize, and film editing. Which with Anora, it's like, yep, you've got picture, you've got director, and film editing. I think that can be your three wins for the movie. Otherwise, I think the Brutalist and Conclave also have a little bit of an argument here, more so for the Brutalist, but yeah, if you can kind of sense, again, a little bit of momentum slow down for that movie, I can still see Anora winning for its editing. Costume design, this is going to Wicked. I really don't sense that there's going to be any pullback from this. I think Wicked's got it. Production design is the more fun category between the two. I think the Brutalist, because it's about an architect, because it's got all that stuff, I think it's going to be the one that the voters go for. Again, I'm reminded of it kind of like last year with the Zone of Interest, that winning for best sound, because the movie, part of the movie's most devastating impact was that you had the sound design in that movie, which was haunting to many voters and many watchers of the film. In the same way, I feel like The Brutalist, the fact that it is about an architect, there's a lot of design elements to the movie, on top of it also being a period piece and everything, I think that's one that everyone's just going to notice it and they'll probably check it. But Wicked is still a threat to win in that category, absolutely, for sure. The two music categories now. Best Original Score, I like The Brutalist here to win. Conclave will have a little bit of an argument there. We could even see Emilia Perez being an original musical. That could actually still win. But I think, again, we've got the other category, I think, for the Emilia Perez lovers to award it, which is Best Original Song. And El Mal, I think, will still win. I haven't really heard, and here's the other thing. If Diane Warren, who's been nominated, 12, 13, 14 times now, I forget how many, but I think she's in the teen digits now for number of nominations. If there was going to be a huge push from people that are like, nope, you can't give anything to Emilia Perez, blah, 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 the people that are just not liking Emilia Perez, if there was going to be a huge push to say, okay, Diane Warren, it's your time, that push needed to happen like a week or two ago, and I've really not heard anyone talk about it. So Elmal, in the meantime, continues to win at one of the Globes and at Critics' Choice for Original Song. There's not a ton of categories left, other than maybe the Music Guild, for there to be many spots to think about this category. So I think, I think Elmal is probably still your frontrunner here. For the makeup and hairstyling category, the substance feels like the winner here. I was at one point thinking Wicked could really win this in just kind of a, they'll just name check it in a few categories. But yeah, I think the substance is well enough seen by everyone, and part of it being a body horror movie. Yeah, I think they'll go with that. And traditionally, we can see a lineup between and a crossover between one of your acting winners and a makeup win as well. We saw that with The Whale. You can go back to what was the other big one I was thinking of the other day? Darkest Hour, and some of those. It's you can go to examples like that, but I don't know. In this case, I can see it's not necessarily a direct correlation, because that more has to do with physical transformations, like turning Gary Oldman into Winston Churchill. It was nominated, it didn't win, but turning Renee Zellweger into Judy Garland, and so on and so forth. It's when you have a huge, or again, can't remember the character's name, but the character that Brendan Fraser played in The Whale, turning regular Brendan Fraser into that character. That's a big accomplishment. It's a big, easy thing that you can look at and identify. For the sound category, I'm going a little off script here. I like A Complete Unknown to win this because since it overperformed so much at the Oscars, getting the director nomination, for example, getting the costume design nominations, I think they want to give it something, and this could be about the only place they give it something. We also saw when you had more obvious movies that could win, I'm trying to remember here, who was nominated against Bohemian Rhapsody when it swept the two sound categories in 2018. Let me remind myself here, because I remember I did not pick. I don't think I picked it for either one of the sound categories. Maybe sound mixing, but I'm trying to remember who I went with. Did I go with Black Panther? Maybe no, I can't even remember who I went with. First Man, maybe? Roma? God, I cannot remember who I went with. Maybe sound mixing I went with Star is Born or something. I legit can't remember. But either way, I don't think Bo Rap was an easy winner in those categories that year. You had some people that did pick it. It's not like it was a complete, surprise. But I think Complete Unknown is more on track for a performance like that, where it's I can win the sound category and be competitive in that way. We also did see, and it's not a direct correlation because it's a different type of, accomplishment in sound, but we saw, Ford v Ferrari win for its sound. Oh shit, was it mixing or editing? I can't remember. But it was it won one of the sound categories, and it won for film editing that night, I recall. So sound editing was the one it won for. That's right. And that's another James Mangold film, so there you go. I would say Wicked and Dune Part 2 could also really be competitive in that sound category, but it'll be a little up for debate. But I kind of like a little outsider pick there with Complete Unknown. For visual effects, I like Dune Part 2 here, and I'm really scratching my head with what's the number 2 here? Is it maybe one of the other Best Picture nominees in Wicked? I don't think so. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We saw the other 3 films struggle, and this one is not nearly as recognized as the other 3, so I don't know why it would come back and win now. It just doesn't add up for me. Now to the shorts categories. I think Beautiful Men is your frontrunner right now for animated short, but the way I've heard everybody really like Wander to Wonder, that makes me almost want to pick that one in a little bit of an upset. If we recall, back to 2021, the year of the first Dune and Coda, I remember I got, alongside a few other people, I got every category right except for animated short, which went to the windshield wiper. Wander to Wonder kind of feels like one of those I might just pick that second one and place it on top of your front runner. So I'll kind of think about that one a little bit. The other 2 short categories, though, I think are a little less competitive. You have I Am Ready Warden, which feels like the clear front runner there in documentary short. I haven't heard a bunch of real passion for any of the other 4 yet. So yeah, I'm not really sensing too much of an upset chance there. And then with the live action short, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, I think, is your front runner here. With I'm Not a Robot maybe possibly playing a little bit of spoiler there. as you know, again, if the conversation, if the thought is on the AI stuff, which I'm not a robot, which I don't think directly deals with AI, as if I've read correctly, it's more, you know, partially to do with AI. It's not all AI with the creation of the robots in the short or whatever. But if there's some people that just really, some voters really have that on the mind, they think about it, they're like, oh, that must mean AI, and they check it off, and we see enough voters that see it blind and just check it to win, yes, then I can see a scenario where a movie like that can win. But for now, I think the title with The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent sounds important. The people that don't watch it, that still vote, yeah, they'll probably just name check that one as well. So, all right. I think we got through, that's everything. But yeah, we've still got a little bit of time here before we get to BAFTA and SAG. I will actually... I got to keep an eye on the weather here. I'm not sure, because BAFTA is this coming Sunday, as I recall, the 16th. So I'll probably have BAFTA winner predictions out later this week, probably aiming at late Wednesday into Thursday. And then from there, yeah, I've got a few other things going on, so I should be able to recap on BAFTA wins on Sunday night, and then we'll kind of dig into, okay, what, if anything, changes because of the BAFTA wins, and kind of go from there. And then, obviously, we've got some time between that. WGA will also hand out their awards this weekend. We see Art Directors Guild, Makeup Guild this weekend, and then next weekend is, or you know, the weekend after this coming one, then we get Indie Spirits, for what that's worth. We've got the... a few other guilds there, and we've got SAG on Sunday the 23rd, which is going to be the big... voting will have already closed, but it's going to be our possible sign into some possible spoilers there for potential winners. So, all right, that's all I got for now. We'll be back later this week with BAFTA winner predictions.